Okay, great. Let's start. Hi, everyone. Welcome to BPMA's event for November called The Value of Product Marketing. We've got Neil and Bill on who are going to be bringing their expert insights to us around this topic. So the session today will last about an hour, and then we'll let you all go. We will follow up afterwards with a link to the recording. So we do record these sessions and a few different resources to share, including some of the slides that you'll see today. So no worries about, taking notes or needing to remember everything. We will share them out. If you've never been to a BPMA event before, hello, welcome. My name's Hillary. I am a co-director of events at BPMA. This is, I think, my third year as part of this group. So super exciting. Always love meeting new folks in the product community in Boston or beyond. Yeah, we love to have you join. So if you're not familiar with BPMA, definitely go check out the website. We've got lots of good resources on there. We do monthly virtual events like this one. We also occasionally do in-person events. We had one, I believe, last week it was, that we co-sponsored with a bunch of other product communities in the local area. So always some good opportunities for networking there. We've got a robust blog on the website that our website team contributes to pretty often. We've got a mentorship program that's worth checking out if you're interested in being either a mentor or a mentee, and also a public job board. And then if you're a BPMA member, which check out our membership, it's pretty, I think, affordable costs for the year. You often get, free admission to in-person events. And we've got a Slack community as well that you can use to connect with others too. So check it out. We also wanted to give out a shout out to our sponsors and our partners. So the top level there, you'll see our BPMA sponsors, Pragmatic Institute, NDT, or New Dimensions in Technology, and Product Board. And I know we have a couple of folks potentially from our sponsors here today. So I'd love to just introduce Amy from Pragmatic and have her just say a couple words about Pragmatic. And then if there's somebody from NDT, I think we might have had joining as well, or Product Board, just give me a shout and we'll do the same. But yeah, Amy.
Thanks, Hillary. Hello, everyone. As Hillary said, my name's Amy Graham. I'm actually an instructor with Pragmatic Institute. I know many of you are probably familiar. If you're not, Pragmatic is the leading training provider when it comes to product marketing and product management, the leading authority, if you will. But we don't just offer training. We also offer coaching and workshops and labs and tutorials and refreshers. And we've really ramped up our product offerings this past year, which we're incredibly excited about. We have a number of workshops that are brand new this year, and would love to have any of you, all of you, send your teams through our training. So happy to be here. Looking forward to today's session.
And Amy, could you put your contact information in the chat?
Would be happy to.
Great. Thanks, Amy. And I think we might hear a little bit from Amy throughout the session too. Anybody from NDT or product board on, you might have to unmute yourselves. Everyone is muted by default. And just check before we move on. All right. If I missed anybody or if you couldn't get unmuted fast enough, just drop a note in the chat and we'll have you introduce yourselves. So thank you to our sponsors and partners. Definitely make a lot of these offerings possible through BPMA. All right, and then just quick guiding principles before I introduce our speakers. So again, if you've never been on before, definitely encourage cameras on if you're comfortable. Also know this is around lunchtime, so if you're eating, feel free to be camera off. But yeah, we love to meet people locally in the product community, and it's always helpful to put a face to a name. Love seeing a couple of repeat visitors and BPMA members and past speakers here, which is awesome. And then we encourage networking. We know, for a lot of you, you're interested in connecting with peers or a mentor, or, you're looking for a new role or you're looking to hire. So definitely feel free to throw your information in the chat, introduce yourself, your title, where you work or where you're attending school, what industry you're in, and your location if you're Boston based or somewhere else. And then lastly, just ask questions in the chat as we go. So Neil and Bill have a lot planned today to talk through with us around product marketing. But we want to make sure that you always get value out of these sessions. So ask your questions. We might get to it at the end, or we might just pause and address it right in the moment. So yeah, ask them, ask them, ask them. All right. And then welcome to Neil and Bill. They're going to be leading us through this discussion today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then I know Neil and I are going to switch screens, and he'll share his slides. But why don't we start with just a quick intro from both Neil and Bill?
Okay, Hillary, you have to let me share.
All right, you want me to pause? I can do that.
Sure. Hey, Bill, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, everyone. Bill Bradley, Senior Director of Product Marketing here at XM Cyber. I am located up in the Boston area. I think Neil and I have connected for BPMA and the Product Executive Forum, probably going on 7 years ago or so, like that, back when the world made sense, when people were always in the office and stuff like that. And used to go to those monthly 7 a.m. breakfasts there as part of the Executive Forum and have stayed in touch there. Excited to have a conversation today. And for those of you who were on before were on earlier, this shirt is salmon colored, just to confirm the pink theme for today there. So, and you have my email address on the slide here. I know my LinkedIn isn't there later. If you reach out to me on LinkedIn, please do me a favor and just let me know where you found me. I'm sure many of you get a ton of LinkedIn responses, and there's no faster way to get ignored than just to send a blind LinkedIn response with nothing other than I want to connect.
Absolutely. Hi, my name is Neil Barron. For many years, I was in senior product roles for a variety of tech companies, also customer-facing roles. In 2009, I started a consulting firm, Barron Strategic Partners, where we help B2B organizations accelerate revenues by applying product management and product marketing best practices. So the topic for today is all about product marketing. And product marketing, as many of you know, is probably one of the loneliest jobs in the company. And yet at the same time, it is one of the most important jobs in the company. But yet, in a lot of my work with CEOs, when I ask them about product marketing, we don't really get much of a concrete response. There's little recognition of the importance of product marketing by some of the many folks in the C-suite. So we're here to talk about how we can elevate the role of product marketing, elevate the perception of product marketing in organizations. And so many companies think about product marketing fairly tactically. It's the collateral department. We need a brochure done, and the grown-ups in product management will go to product marketing and just ask for a brochure to be created. At the same time, it's like, oh my God, we're going next week to a trade show. We don't have signage. Product marketing, can you make the signs for us? Or it could be the lost and found department. Somebody in sales says, well, I can't find this particular case study. Could you help me find it? And you go off and you search through some database or some portal to find it for the salesperson. You look at it also as, well, we're working on a big proposal and we need some customer references. Can you go out and just get some customer references for us to put in this really big and important proposal? Or it's like, well, we in product need to have a whole bunch of, we need a campaign to be run. Okay, product marketing person, can you work with Marcom or Demand Gen to get the campaign out? It tends to be a very, very tactical approach. Now, if you could put in the chat, if this is you or if you can relate, can you just put in the chat saying, this is me, or can relate? And in the meantime,
Hey Neil,
best in class
before you kick
organization.
on to the next one, I want a couple things I just wanted
Yes,
to add
sure.
from a product marketer captured here in the wild for today's conversation there. I think that when I look at these here, it's sometimes it's a time and a place is where these things come into play. And a lot of these things are things that need to get done. And yeah, they are very tactical, and it's not always necessarily about no, no, no. I don't want to be seen as the person saying no. It's like if this is urgent, first of all, we need to address the fact that it's the show is next week and you don't have booth messaging for it, which I'm sure has happened to all of us there. And whatever, let's move on from it. But it's often I can do this, but it means something else comes off the list or something else changes in the list. It's about that prioritization there. So that's part of there. And then it's as an effective PMM, some of these things can be easy to bang out though. That's I think where a lot of these where the PMMs get hijacked into doing these things here because I have a visibility across the product suite across customer success, across the different functions there, where I can rattle off maybe 3 or 4 customers that a sales rep he or she may not know in different verticals. I know where things are. And also comes down to sometimes where I am in my tenure in the business there. If I'm in my first week or month in the business, I'm far more likely to say, yeah, I can do this. And then I'll grumble offline or say, this is not what this is not what I expected to do with this one here. But sometimes it's about building those credibility, getting the relationships established within the organization so that you can have some of the things that I know, Neil, you're going to come to in the later slides there about how the PMM can be more of just if this is broken, this is fix it. And these things where like the marketing, the sales help desk, I think the ones that I get where I always have a soft spot. So I didn't say this during the intro, but I spent the first 8 years or so of my career in an end user sales role. And to me, the sales teams are always ones that I try and stay close with the role there. So becoming a help desk for them is sometimes something I'll fall into. But of this, the thing that I think is probably the most challenging one for me as a product marketer to be is the lost and found department. That's just sometimes the person doesn't want to put the effort into it and doesn't do it. But again, it comes down to how do we help the business move forward there? And yes, I need to really focus on how I can be tactical and strategic and balance those two. So that's my take on this slide here. I know we have some more going on how to be an effective
And so
product
this
manager.
is not meant to be completely pejorative. This stuff has to get done. But if it's the only thing you're doing, that's when there's a problem. And so we want to spend the rest of the time talking about what can be done to get product marketing to be viewed more strategically in the organization. We're going to talk about some metrics. I want to share a framework for thinking about customer needs and other tools that you can bring back to your office so that you can be seen as more impactful than just running around being the lost and found department. Reality is somebody's got to do it. It often is it is important work, but it can't be the only thing that you're thinking about. And yet there's other organizations that think about product marketing much more strategically. Product marketing has a bigger impact in the organization. This is where you're seen as a vital business partner to sales, to marketing. You're seen as the glue or a leader, or we often refer to product marketing should be the quarterback of the organization to drive commercial success of the product. When it comes down to it, marketing requirements stock, but you're out there talking to the marketplace, you're going to conferences, you're relating to the analyst, you are talking to prospects, you're tagging along on sales calls. And so you are the one who has this strategic overall view of the market and the deep understanding of customer needs. Product marketing should be the ones who own the go-to-market strategy. Often this may get outsourced to Marcom, or in some cases, the sales VP or the CMO dictates this. but for your product and your market, you should be owning this. Value propositions, understanding and being able to document in great detail the buyer's journey and owning everything from sales enablement, from making sure that you understand the sales process all the way through training, creating sales playbooks. How many of you in product marketing regularly create detailed organizational sales playbooks? And not just sales playbooks, but organization-wide playbooks. Is that a best practice in your organization or not? So, given the fact nobody's put anything in the chat, that's something to start thinking about. And then, yes, you're involved in marketing implementation, but you're much more the leader of marketing. You are driving MarCom and you are directing the marketing team as opposed to being seen as just part of the marketing team. And for those of you that are familiar with Pragmatic, uh, we, you start off with the upper left part of the pragmatic framework. Amy, be prepared to either put an image in place or to talk to it. But in the pragmatic upward framework, it starts with identifying market problems. And those market problems that are pervasive, they're urgent, and there's a significant customer willingness to pay. There's a link to the pragmatic framework in the chat. But Amy, I think we're speaking your language here.
Yeah. So I'll be quick about this, but the way we talk about the framework is if I were to give you like a parallel or something you could relate to, think about how development teams have a methodology, like a philosophy that they follow, like Scrum or Kanban or SAFe or some flavor of Agile or Waterfall or whatever. This is the philosophy or the methodology for product teams, which includes product managers and product marketing. So we believe that the framework consists of the 37 activities that are absolutely critical if you want to have that best-in-class product management and product marketing function. These are the 37 things we have to own and execute against. And Neil, you did a great job talking about like the upper left-hand corner. So the way we've designed it is on the left-hand side, the activities are much more strategic in nature. As you move to the right of the framework, you'll see they get much more tactical, much more execution oriented. So.
Excellent. Thank you. And so often I get asked by C-suite executives, what should product marketing do? And what should product management do? And those of you who joined me with Hans at the October session on pricing, we talked all about dead squirrels. If you want to hear about dead squirrels, listen to the recording of the October session. But I feel it's really important to use simple, everyday metaphors to get very complicated processes and ideas across. So when I meet with C-suites folks who may not have as broad a background or deep as understanding of product marketing and product management as we do, I use a grocery store analogy. So essentially, the role of product management can be thought of as putting the product on the shelves. It's what should we be selling? What should we be building? What do customers want to buy? And it's the ownership of the product requirement stock. You're the one who's working with the development team to ensure the product gets developed according to spec, according to schedule, on budget. You own the product roadmap and you do the feature comparisons. And yes, you work with the market, but it tends to be more on the functional buyer, the user buyer, the technical people in the organization. Amy, I'll set you up again. There are particular pragmatic classes that go into much more detail around what product management does.
Yeah, the first most important one is just our foundations course. Even if you're an experienced product professional and you've been in product for 10, 15, 20 years, the foundations course really sets the language. The common language talks about the framework that I mentioned a moment ago. And it talks about the importance of really studying the market, keeping a good finger on the pulse. So kind of that top of funnel, if you will. And then we've got a course that's very specific to really sifting through all of your opportunities and understanding, uh, is this even a problem that's worth somebody solving? How do we know? Neil, you mentioned earlier, urgency, pervasiveness, willingness to pay. But we go into much more detail. Each course sort of like capitalize on the previous course and it goes into more detail, such as things here like working with development teams and understanding how to collaborate and better partner between product and engineering or design or road mapping is which is one of the things that's covered in our focus class. So there's a number of courses that do deep dives on many of these topics. And there's certain tracks. There's a track for product marketers, and there's also a separate track for product managers. So.
Yeah, and thank you, Amy. And on the other hand, product marketing ensures what's put on the shelf by product management moves off the shelf, gets picked up and bought by the market, by specific customers. So on the other hand, it's all about who should buy, why they should buy, looking at your value proposition, looking at identifying the market problems to be solved. It's all about driving commercial success. It's working with the sales team. It's owning the market requirements document. And it's all about when you do work with the customer and the market, it's all about understanding the economic buyer. And so, question for the group, does this uh, does this relate? Here, any questions or comments about the grocery store metaphor?
Hey, Neil, while people are putting comments, and I'll just jump on this one here, just because again, this
Please.
goes my focus area here. But this is, I think, all these things you talk about the market requirement document. Obviously, what's that with the MRD? The market is it's so paramount that as a product marketer that I or my role needs to see all the different elements of that role. And it's about, yeah, talking with our sales team, talking with our SE team, talking with our customers, talking with prospects, talking with customers who've churned. Why did you leave? Talking with people who've exited the sales pipeline and lost. Like why? Okay, what did we not meet your needs there? And also go back to, and this is a previous company, we were at a big pivot point going from an on-premises solution to a cloud-based solution years back. And part of the conversations, and this was a difficult conversation to have, is are there existing customers we have today that we are going to leave behind if we go from an on-premises solution to a cloud-based solution? And the answer was emphatically yes. There are people who will not move to a cloud-based for a variety of reasons. So do we want to then abandon them, or do you want to then double up your efforts and have two different platforms there? But this is kind of those market conversations that you need to have out there. It's just key to really understanding all the different elements of it, and going back to what you said earlier, Neil, how it's a quarterback to drive the organization to success. Part of my role again is to talk broadly internally around the business to understand what are the different elements of it. I have a different lens on it because I'm talking to so many different functions in the business, as opposed to a sales rep or an SE who he or she may be focused on this particular patch of grass, and this is where my focus is. And if it's outside of that one, it's not important to him. And that's not their role. Their role is to profitably grow their segment of the business and do their job. And that's why this product marketing is such a aligning function in a business.
So I noticed Molly has a question in the chat about functional buyer and economic buyer. An economic buyer is the person who authorizes the expense. The functional buyer, or also known as the user buyer, is someone who directly uses or benefits from the product itself. So for those of you who are parents who go out and buy your kid ice cream, The user buyer, if you will, is the kid who chooses the flavor. Our Meanwhile, it's the parent who is the economic buyer who pays for the ice cream. May even choose which store you go, or will also choose whether or not you even buy ice cream. So hopefully that gives you some insight. Amy, if you could put in the relevant courses in the chat related to product marketing that you have, that'd be great. That way we can just continue.
Yep. Can I just add one super quick thing to what you just said,
Sure,
Neil?
please.
The functional buyer, everything Neil said is exactly what we teach. The one thing I would add is a functional buyer can also have huge influence into the economic buyer. So it's somebody who is in their ear, so to speak. And so from a marketing purpose, it's super important for us to understand who those functional buyers are because they can influence the ultimate person who's making the purchase decision.
Yes, and Hillary, you had your hand up for.
I was just gonna go jump in the chat and ask Molly's question. There's a couple other questions that came in, but I think I'm
Please,
happy
thank
to
you.
save them to the end if that's helpful.
Okay, let's go through this here. And so one of the things to keep in mind is that if product marketing does not play a strategic role, namely you're running around as a lost and found department, or you're the missing collateral department, or the signage department, there's a big gap in the organization. If you're not figuring out how to get products off the shelf, then somebody else will do it. Often it's sales team. And the sales team does not have a strategic vision in terms of what you should be selling or who to sell to. It's almost like if you're canning tuna, here comes another analogy, and you're very good at canning tuna, but the salespeople decide to bring a whale into your tuna canning operation. Yeah, it's a really big deal, but it also really messes up your roadmap, your operations. And so if you're outsourcing your strategic decisions, such as which customers we should serve, you're headed for trouble. Or else maybe it just happens randomly. So anyhow, we're going to get into metrics in terms of what's the difference between low impact metrics or tactical metrics versus more strategic metrics. And so in the low impact, you're worried about how many pieces of collateral that you produce, or if the salespeople really like a brochure or not, or product or material usage. It could be around the number of leads, whether they're marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads, but really looking at the number of leads that you have. Or, gee, let's get into some vanity metrics like likes. I worked with one very large organization where product marketing was very proud of how often they posted on Twitter or how often they sent out other types of social media or number of hits to the website. More vanity type metrics. Bill, my guess is you have something to say about this.
Neil, I have something to say about everything, for good or for bad. And I think the first one I talk about is the volume of assets there. And as I've been in a role in the past, early on in product marketing, where really my metrics were, I need one, we'll call it big piece of content every quarter, one medium piece every month, and one small piece every week. And that was really the core metrics there. And I would argue that's a good way to at least get started, but by no means should that be where you end. Because if I'm hitting those metrics there and they're not moving the needle, those are the wrong metrics there. I can put out an ebook every quarter and it never gets read. Doesn't really help you. And that goes into the next side. Next comment is around lead generation. I've been in organizations in the past where our sales leader I get on the monthly, the weekly, excuse me, the quarterly forecast calls, and I will hear sales leaders say, "Hey, I know we're getting a bunch of leads from this source here. I don't want to hear you guys following up on them. There are garbage leads there." And that's where that disconnect is between lead generation, demand generation, pipeline generation. I think it's a matter of what the right metric is there. But from talking to the sales team, if I give you 100 leads and a chunk of them are Gmail addresses, a bunch of them are from competitors. If we as a marketing team don't do a good job of, first of all, filtering out the junk, and second of all, the ones that do make it through to you aren't turning into opportunities because they're not qualified, they're not the right people, that's not doing anyone favors. It's a waste of resources, both money that as a marketing team we're spending, but also a waste of the valuable time that the sales and SE team has there. So and this goes into your next slide about really what are some of the higher performing metrics. It's about generating pipeline, generating revenues, generating demos, and demos kind of straddles the line between the ineffective and effective metrics there. Are your demos getting the right people in there, or are all your demos just competitors who want to see how your product works there? But these metrics you have out there, selling price, win rate, and actually, I want to take a little diatribe on win rate, because this is one of the ones that can be a challenging issue. I've been in the company in the past where the culture was, oh, we don't lose deals. And oh, go talk to this territory, they lose the deals there. So as a product marketer, when I'm looking at win rate, a lot of times I'll have to do my own research to figure out how I'm going to look at win rates, because sales teams will and I've seen this, my experience was sometimes you'll get anytime you have a number, people will doctor it. And the behavior that we saw in the past was that any deal lost under 100K didn't get reported out. So you'd see deals starting at $300,000, $500,000, and then as it would lose its ability, like as it would lose its attractiveness as a deal, the deal size would shrink, and then you had a whole bunch of $99,000 lost deals. And that's why this win rate is something you need to dig into and understand how can this be an effective and accurate metric there. But days sales cycle, again, how quickly are we moving opportunities through the pipeline there? If I'm getting opportunities that are moving quickly, what do I learn from those? How do I replicate those? Again, we are all, or at least most of have monthly, quarterly, annual targets there. And if I can close the deal faster, that lets me get on to the next one there. I'm in a business that's probably a 6 to 9-ish, we'll call it ballpark sales cycle right now. How do I shave a month off that? How do I shave time off that one so I can get on to the next one there? These are all metrics here, these strategic ones that talk about what is actually going to generate profitable growth for the business. This is what it's all about. And some of those ineffective metrics can be leading to these ones here, but I think you need to look at some of these here and really focus on what it is you do. One of the ones that, again, I'd love to hear people's comments this one here from the analyst perspective. Analyst briefings, that can be deemed as a metric there. I would love to hear if people feel like analysts are an effective use of time out there, ineffective, or just anyone have any comments or in the chat about that one. And with that, I'll pass it back over to Neil.
Okay, so one of the things is, as you're starting to, if you're running a product marketing organization, or even if you're in product management that interfaces with product marketing, having these metrics really clear and really defined and agreed to are just so important in terms of elevating the perception of product marketing. If you're going around talking about, well, we created 3 brochures this month, and or we developed a whole bunch of Gmail leads, as Bill talked about, you're going to be seen as lower status, lower impact in the organization, versus if you're talking about win rate or the average deal, we increase the average deal size by X%. That's how you get the attention of the C-suite. That's how you get elevated to a more strategic role, or a more strategic position. Quite frankly, if you want to get promoted and you're in product marketing, these are the metrics you talk about. These are the metrics you track, versus the number of tweets that you put out last month. So let's go to the chat. Where are you in terms of the strategic versus tactical continuum? Are you focused more on the collateral, on the signage, on finding materials or creating content for proposals? Or are you driving and leading the organization by creating the market requirement stocks? Are you tracking things like average deal size or win rate, among other things? Um, so just put it in the chat where you are on the 1 to 10 scale.
And yeah, while people are putting in their 1 to 10 scale, I think one of the things for me, again, I enjoy a lot of variety in what I do. And I feel like on if you ask me this question on any given week, my number is going to vary from week to week. And I think that's a lot of what is sometimes makes the role interesting role to me. Um, So, some people may say, I want to focus solely on being a strategic MRD, GTM focus there. Others want to be on the tactical side. I think that just depends on what your particular needs are. For me, I like having that blend of both sides of these here. And I think each one makes me better at the other one. If I have a really strong MRD GTM plan, if I need to be a pitch in and get some collateral done, I can bang it out quickly there. Whereas if I'm really only focused on one, it either end benefits the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into one of the most strategic decisions you can make as product marketing folks, and that is which customers you choose to serve. Notice very deliberate about that, which customers you choose to serve. It's all about proactively selecting and identifying those customers, ideally with those painful, awful, smelly market problems that they're willing to pay a lot of money to fix. So let's use another metaphor here. Suppose you're going door to door and you're selling fire extinguishers. Okay. You come into a fairly affluent neighborhood and you look at these two houses look somewhat the same. Now, of course, if you're really focused on personas, you'll notice that one house is white, one house is brown. One house has A-frame type eaves here. The other has more of a flat. One has shutters. The other doesn't have shutters. Um, in one case, the family has an older girl and a younger girl in this case. So you can go through and do a ton of work of personas, and I've been around enough companies to see a lot of persona work focuses on things such as the color of the house. But if you're selling fire extinguishers, who do you call on first? Hard to tell. Now we're just going to change one thing in this slide, and one house has some smoke coming out of the window. Now, which house is more likely to buy your fire extinguishers quickly and without going to committee, without negotiating? It's fairly obvious it's the house on the right. They have an urgent need. And so the whole focus of the organization can be, how do we meet that urgent need? How do we identify those folks with that, what we call a burning market need, which is smoke coming out of the window? And so when we think about personas, are we really focused on things that really matter to the likelihood of purchase? Probably not. But if we look at these smoke, then you can now start to identify prospects who are much more likely to buy. Now, it can get a little bit more complicated than that because suppose they are neighbors. And these folks have just watched their neighbor's house go up on fire in smoke. Now, these folks who have seen the trauma of what happened to their neighbor's house, I guarantee you will probably go back and check and make sure their smoke alarms and their fire extinguishers are in place. True story, I did watch back in March of 2022. I did watch my neighbor's house in the backyard go up in smoke. Everybody was okay. House was completely lost, but I went back and I checked my smoke detectors, and I checked my fire extinguishers just to be safe. If I didn't have smoke detectors or fire extinguishers, you can be darn sure I was off to the hardware store or Home Depot to make sure I had them. So I want to introduce this framework here called the urgency of needs. This is a very powerful tool that product marketing folks and product managers can use to identify who is most likely to buy and then take the most appropriate actions. Looking at our fire extinguisher example here, we have the urgent un we have the urgent need. This is urgent need here, and it's unmet, such as your house is on fire. These people are going to buy quickly, no debate, and they're not going to argue about price. In this next column, it could be non-urgent need. They haven't seen the trauma of the neighbor's house, but they kind of know, go up in smoke, or their own house isn't on fire. But at the same time, they're in your target market. They just don't have a need right now. Third category could be they have no apparent need. Could be they live in a brick house. Could be that they don't cook at all. Could be that they have geothermal or they don't need any heat, or there's no apparent need. In this case, the job is making a strategic decision. Do we try to fight for this business? Namely, convince them that brick houses still go up in smoke and that there's still things like lightning strikes that could cause a problem and cause a need. Do you try to sell them on the need and have your sales team sell them on the need? Or do you just say, look, if you walk by brick houses, we're not calling on brick houses because it's too hard to sell. And besides, there's enough business in these first two columns here that we don't have to sell to the folks that don't have apparent need. Or maybe you have a great story to tell the brick houses and you should be teaching your salespeople to sell it. Once again, these are strategic decisions that you are making for the organization, communicating to sales, communicating to the marketplace. You could also have a situation where the need is already potentially met. Suppose they have a sprinkler system up in the ceiling that goes off anytime there's smoke. Now, you could walk away because if they have a sprinkler system, they don't need fire extinguishers. Or you may say, if the sprinkler system goes off, well, that does $25,000, $30,000 worth of damage. You have to replace the whole kitchen. Who wants that? So maybe you sell them a fire extinguisher as to complement the sprinkler system. Or maybe for a product development opportunity, you go and work with the sprinkler system company to embed your fire extinguisher into their sprinkler systems as a new channel to market. But this can be a very powerful way, a very powerful tool for those in product marketing who are trying to help the organization make some very strategic decisions, such as which customers do we choose to serve. And furthermore, if we had more time, you look at each category of need to really define what does it look like? What actions do we have to take to meet the need of that organization? Do we fight for the business? Do we walk away? What should our supply chain look like? How do we sell? And so looking at this framework through this lens, once again, a very powerful tool. In fact, this was recently written up in Harvard Business Review under the urgency of customer needs. Hillary or Bill, if you could put the link to this article in the chat, that'd be awesome. But that goes into a lot of detail in terms of what urgency of needs looks like and how you can use that framework to drive strategic decisions and essentially become much more strategic. So, final topic that we want to get into is how do you align your product team? Who should really do what? We talked about the grocery store metaphor, but here's a real effort that we did for a company called Dine up in Manchester, New Hampshire. Dine was, as a result of some of this work here, was bought for a lot of money by Oracle a few years back. But I worked with the EVP of product who owned product management and product marketing to apply the pragmatic framework to help determine the roles of product marketing and product management. So we started off by looking at a number of different roles. We had strategic roles for product marketing and product management. We had inbound marketing roles, namely being the voice of the customer to the company, to engineering. And then we also had how do you communicate, basically getting products off the shelf here. And so we took the pragmatic framework that Amy has talked about before and really looked at the different jobs that needed to be done. And we color coded them into 4 buckets, whether they're product strategy, product marketing, product management, or more under corporate marketing or MarCom. And we agreed and we built internal consensus on who was going to do what. And we then created functional jobs. We had a product strategy role. We created a product management team and a product marketing team. And we were very clear in terms of who was doing what. This was the part of the job descriptions that we used to hire individuals as well. Yes, they are leadership roles because once again, product managers and product marketing folks should be leaders in the organization. Amy, anytime I bring up the framework, I feel I need to call on you and get some of your thoughts on this approach to assigning responsibilities.
Yeah, it's one of the first things we suggest organizations and teams do is just as you described, Neil, with this company, taking the pragmatic framework and understanding of all those 37 activities, where does the ownership lie? So who owns it today? Who should own it moving forward? And I also want to be very, very clear that what Neil's showing you is just an example from a particular customer. Yours doesn't have to look just like this. We've seen hundreds of different flavors. That's one of the beautiful things based on the maturity of your company, the size of your organization, how many resources or lack thereof you have. There's a lot of different ways that you could structure your teams to support the best practices required for product management and product marketing.
Yep. Thank you. Hillary, we have some questions in the chat before we wrap up.
Yeah, so one question related to this slide from Karsten. What are some of the job titles under the product strategy umbrella?
So product strategy, in fact, I wrote an article in Pragmatic about this very topic. And if you're interested, if someone puts my email in the chat, I can follow up with the article. But often it could be head of product strategy. It could be head of market strategy, or probably 2 of the most common names. It doesn't have to be head. It could be, director of product strategy, director of market strategy, but usually has a market strategy role or a product strategy role in it. And Amy, yeah, go ahead.
We chatted about my dog before this, Neil. I'm sure you can hear him.
I can't, but I think everybody would love to see your dog at some point. It's really cute.
When he comes back over, I will.
Okay.
So time for regular Q&A, Neil?
Yes. Questions before we land the plane?
There were a number of questions throughout the session, so I noted a few down. Some of them, some folks provided answers to in the chat, but it would be great to just pose them and see if you and Bill have any other thoughts, or Amy. So one from Mark, I am curious where you see product marketing sitting in an organization and how that impacts their mission, and collaboration with product management. At my last company, it was under sales within marketing.
Yeah, I would say, if you want to be strategic, sales tends to be very tactically driven. You know, are we going to make our number this month? Are we going to make our number this quarter? You want product marketing to be as strategic as possible. I've seen product marketing report into a EVP. In this case, at Dine, it was an EVP of products that owned product management and product marketing and product strategy. I also seen product marketing work with a strategic thinking CMO. But once again, you don't want to be in a position where all you're doing is creating collateral. And also, so I would say in some cases it reports directly to the C-suite. For example, even a CEO, depending on the size of the company. But the short answer is the two-word answer is it depends.
Yeah, and I'll jump in real quickly just because I'm similar to what Neil say. For me, product marketing teams that I have worked with have always reported up in through the CMO, through the marketing side there. I think if your product marketing is going to have a different character, if I report up into the product management function versus the sales function versus the product market, or excuse me, versus the marketing function, you're going to take on the character of who you're reporting up into there. And I think Neil's point is spot on. Sales teams are focused on the different timelines from a product and a marketing standpoint. I think you need to be able to look beyond just what I can close this quarter or this month. It needs to be that broader perspective. For me, ideally, I would love to have the product marketing function reporting into this to the senior leadership of the business there, because I think that's how you get a seat at the table there. And it comes down to how you can make sure you have a voice throughout the business there as a product marketer there. When I've been on job searches and I've had meetings there, I can definitely tell a difference talking to the product marketing teams based on where they report into. I'm not an engineer by background. I have spent time in technical sales roles, technical marketing roles, but I will never be able to take the role of an engineer, and nor do I want to. And if the product marketing roles are part of the product management function, I say, okay, I'm going to go into this open-minded, but I'll get in there. And a lot of times it will be a very much a technical marketing focus and then product marketing second versus for me. And again, this comes down to my preferences are, I want to have a product marketing that's into the marketing side and it has a very strategic senior leader who has the ear of the CEO, ear of the business, and has the influence that we need to get throughout the business. That's what I look for. And to me, that's my key to success. You guys have all your own metrics there, but that's to me what I would look for.
Okay, excellent. I think we have time for it's 12:53, maybe two more questions.
Okay, sounds good. So another question was, how do we ensure that the product's value proposition aligns with the target market's needs, given that agile development focuses on iterative delivery? And who would be responsible for that?
Once again, the short answer is it depends. But once again, ideally, product marketing is out there looking at the market, talking to customers, going to events, and identifying market problems. A key skill set that has to be acquired is the ability to ask strategic questions of the market. So, I've been in probably 600 customer interviews with product marketing and product management folks. Inevitably, they start off by talking about the product. Would you prefer to have it in pink, yellow, or green? And it's all about the product features. What you're really looking to do is ask business-centric questions. What are they trying to achieve as the business? What do they see as the business's biggest challenges? You should never get on, if you're a product marketing person or a product management person, you should never get on a customer call without reading the annual report, understanding what the CEO is saying about the challenges. It's all about doing homework. It could be looking at analyst reports. So, you're going out there, you're meeting with the market, you're talking, in Pragmatic, they have a wonderful term to talk about these conversations called the HEDO conversations, which stands for Nothing Important Happens in the Office, which means you're getting out there and you're having these business-centric conversations. Otherwise, you just end up in product feature land, which isn't really where you want to be long term. So I'm looking at the time here. I hope my email is posted in the chat. If not, if somebody could post it, that'd be great. Love to continue the conversation. But before we land the plane, for those of you that are senior executives, Bill and I got to know each other through the Product Executive Forum, which I started and I continue to lead. I see David Robbins is here, Sean Robinson, Hans is here, and several other members of the product. Holly Clifford is here. And so this is geared for VP of product management, product marketing levels and up, the most senior levels of product in the company or in the division. It's not for job seekers. There's other ways. The BPMA has many other programs to help job seekers, but really looking at people currently in the role. And for those large organizations, we define large by more than 1,000 people, director level is also permitted into it. You can get more information on the webpage, the bostonproducts.org. You can email me about if you feel you're interested. We're always looking for new people, new ideas, as long as they meet the requirements. So with that, just want to say you can continue the conversation by reaching out to me, or Bill. Amy's information is in the chat. Any questions about Pragmatic? Amy would be happy to help. And we're delighted that you chose to spend an hour with us.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Bill and Neil and Amy as well. Yeah, there was a question in the chat about whether folks will get access to the recording. I definitely will download that today and then send a follow-up email probably tomorrow to all attendees. And with the link to the recording, hopefully Neil and I can connect about a copy of the slides and then
Yes.
everybody's contact info that presented. I
Okay.
also will share a link to a survey. It's in the chat now if you're ready to share feedback now. But yeah, that helps us to always improve these sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to shout out to Hillary and her team. Everybody affiliated with the BPMA is a volunteer. We do it because we want to build the community here in Massachusetts and New England and Boston. So she's a volunteer. Her team is a volunteer. I'm on the board. I'm a volunteer. But we feel it's important to have a strong, vibrant Boston Product Management Association, which is why we volunteer. So if you're looking to get involved with the BPMA, you can email me, you can email Hillary, or just go on the website, bostonproducts.org, and reach out to us there.
Awesome.